The movie opens deep in the woods, where a group of locals desperately search for a couple who vanished without a trace. Their voices echo through the trees, but the forest offers no answers. Whatever happened to the missing pair, it clearly wasn't an accident. Not far from there, two dogs wander off and slip into an underground tunnel hidden beneath the forest floor. Inside, they discover a small pool of water and begin drinking from it. When their owner eventually finds them, something is clearly wrong. The dogs are completely unresponsive, standing unnaturally still, their eyes locked onto each other as if nothing else exists. That night, strange noises and whisper-like voices drift from the dog's sleeping area. Alarmed, the owner goes to check only to be met with a horrifying sight. The two dogs have fused together into a single, twisted creature, their bodies merged into something unnatural and grotesque. The story then shifts to Millie and her boyfriend Tim, an aspiring musician. They throw a farewell party with their friends, celebrating a major life change. Millie has just landed a job as an elementary school English teacher, and the couple is preparing to move to a quiet countryside town. During the party, Millie confides in her friend Kath, admitting that Tim has grown distant. He no longer gives her the affection and attention she craves. At the same time, Tim makes a decision of his own, agreeing to join a music tour in hopes of finally breaking into the industry and chasing his dream. As the night winds down and the couple says goodbye to their friends, Millie suddenly drops to one knee and proposes to Tim. The moment hangs in the air far longer than it should. Tim hesitates, unsure of his answer, leaving Millie embarrassed and deeply hurt. Later that night, the tension boils over. Millie confronts Tim about his emotional distance, even suggesting they might be better off breaking up. Realizing how close he is to losing her, Tim apologizes and promises that he'll do better. After moving into their new home, Tim notices a strange, foul smell lingering in the house. He follows it from room to room until it leads him to a lamp. When he opens it, he's met with a disturbing discovery. Several rats fused together inside, rotting away into a single decaying mass. Meanwhile, Millie begins her first days at the local school where she meets Jamie, a friendly fellow teacher. Jamie warmly welcomes her and offers to show her around the area, mentioning that they're neighbors. That night, Tim stays up long past bedtime, obsessively working on his music in preparation for the upcoming tour. Feeling guilty about neglecting Millie, he suggests they go on a hike together the next day as a way to reconnect, and she agrees. During the hike, a sudden rainstorm hits, quickly turning dangerous. Disoriented and soaked, the couple loses their way in the woods. In the chaos, Tim slips and falls into an underground cave, barely managing to cling to a bell embedded in the rock. Millie tries to pull him out, but instead she loses her footing and both of them plunge into the cave below. With no way out and night closing in, they have no choice but to camp inside the cave. As their water supply runs dangerously low, they notice a pool of water nearby. Tim insists it's safe to drink, brushing off any concerns. Millie refuses, sensing something isn't right. Ignoring her warnings, Tim drinks from the pool anyway. The next morning, as they try to stand up, they make a terrifying realization. Their feet are stuck together. Panic sets in as they struggle to pull themselves apart, but after a painful effort, they finally manage to separate. They escape the cave and head home, unaware that Tim has begun developing a strange wound on his leg, one that refuses to heal. Back at home, Millie asks Tim to give her a massage. As he does, something strange takes over. His hands move on their own, pulled toward her as if guided by an unseen force. His grip grows tighter, more aggressive, until Millie cries out in pain. Tim snaps out of it, confused and shaken, brushing it off by saying he must just be exhausted. While Tim showers, his body suddenly begins copying Millie's movements, every turn, every gesture, despite her being miles away, driving through town. Tim has no control over it, his body moving as if he's become nothing more than a remote-controlled puppet. Terrified and desperate for answers, Tim goes to see a doctor, but his concerns are quickly dismissed. The doctor chalks it up to panic attacks and prescribes muscle relaxants. Almost as an afterthought, he mentions that another couple recently went missing in the area, also while hiking. When Tim returns home, he immediately starts searching for information about the missing couple. Millie finds him glued to his computer, and he explains what he's discovered. A couple vanished nearby under eerily similar circumstances. Before the conversation can go any further, there's a knock at the door. Millie opens it to find Jamie, her friendly coworker from school, stopping by to officially welcome them to the neighborhood. She introduces Jamie to Tim and they invite him inside for dinner. During the meal, Millie and Tim recount their terrifying experience in the cave. Jamie listens closely before explaining that the cave was once home to a New Age church, one that eventually collapsed and was abandoned. After walking Jamie to the door, Tim suddenly feels that same irresistible pull toward Millie again. The two share an intense, passionate kiss until it turns painful. Their lips stick together. Millie panics, assuming Tim bit her. When Tim tries to explain that something has been wrong since the hike, Millie doesn't believe him. She accuses him of using excuses to avoid intimacy and storms off, hurt and angry. That night, as Millie sleeps, she feels a sharp tug on her hair. She jolts awake and switches on the light, only to be met with a horrifying sight. Her hair is lodged deep inside Tim's throat. He's unconscious, choking, unable to breathe. In a desperate panic, Millie pulls at her hair while Tim struggles for air. After a terrifying struggle, she finally manages to yank it free, saving his life. The next morning, Millie begs Tim not to go on the music tour. He looks visibly unwell, barely himself anymore, but Tim refuses to cancel. Determined to chase his dream, he insists on leaving, and Millie reluctantly drives him to the train station. As soon as she drives away, Tim is hit by another episode. His body locks up, fighting against forces he can't control. He tries to resist, but it's no use. Abandoning his music gear, Tim is dragged, almost against his will, toward Millie's school, while Millie is video chatting with her friend Kath, venting about her increasingly strained relationship with Tim. Something outside the classroom window catches her eye. Her heart drops when she sees Tim standing there, disoriented and barely in control of his own body. Millie rushes outside, grabs him, and pulls him into the boys' bathroom. Overcome by the strange pull between them, they retreat into a bathroom stall. But the moment quickly turns into another nightmare. When they try to separate, they realize their bodies have become painfully stuck together. Panic sets in as they struggle to pull free, until they notice someone standing outside the stall. A student sees them and immediately runs off. Desperate, Millie and Tim force themselves apart, barely managing to separate in time. Moments later, there's a knock on the stall door. It's Jamie. Millie opens it while Tim hides inside. Unaware of what just happened, Jamie awkwardly advises her to use the staff bathroom next time if there's an emergency. Back at home, Millie finally explodes. Furious and shaken, she lashes out at Tim, pointing out that what happened could have got her fired or worse. Overwhelmed, she leaves the house and heads to Jamie's place to apologize for the incident at school. Once there, Millie breaks down. She admits that she and Tim just had another fight and opens up about the growing cracks in their relationship. Jamie invites her inside and listens closely, offering comfort. He references Plato's Symposium, explaining the idea of eros, that humans are incomplete beings constantly searching for their other half. He urges Millie not to give up on Tim, then reflects on his own relationship with his husband, who he claims has passed away. As Jamie goes to retrieve a DVD of their wedding, Millie notices Tim outside the house, visibly unwell and confused. Alarmed, she abruptly leaves and the two walk home together, holding hands in uneasy silence. Later that night, Tim digs deeper into the mystery of the missing couple. Using EXIF data from their social media photos, he discovers that Simon and Carrie visited the exact same cave, and that the strange symbols around it match the ones he and Millie saw. Just as he's about to uncover more, the internet suddenly cuts out. Before he can react, there's a loud bang at the door. Startled, Tim stumbles and falls. On the other side, he sees Millie, her body mimicking his movements perfectly, just like he once did to her. Suddenly, her body begins to convulse violently. She slams her head against the door again and again. Tim rushes to open it and tries to wake her, but she's completely unresponsive. With no other option, he slaps her, snapping her back to consciousness. Shaken, Tim finally tries to explain everything: the cave, the pull, the episodes, insisting that something followed them home. Millie dismisses it, blaming exhaustion and stress. No matter how hard Tim tries to convince her that none of this is normal, she refuses to listen. She tells him she's going to bed and orders him to sleep on the couch. Before turning away, she delivers one final blow. By the time her parents arrive for the weekend, Tim shouldn't be there. They're breaking up. That night, the force between them becomes impossible to ignore. Their bodies are dragged toward each other, twisting and bending in unnatural ways. No matter how hard they fight, the distance between them closes. Their arms begin to fuse together. In a panic, Tim tells Millie to grab the medication from his drawer. They swallow as many pills as they can, even crushing some to make them work faster. Planting their feet against each other, they push with everything they have, screaming through the pain as they try to tear themselves apart. The struggle becomes unbearable, and both of them finally lose consciousness. Tim wakes up restrained in a chair. His arm is fused to Millie, and the pain is unbearable. Millie hands him a sip of whiskey to dull the agony as she prepares a saw. She tells him they have to act fast before the drugs wear off and their bodies start merging again. Tim begs her to stop, terrified of what she's about to do. Millie, barely holding herself together, reassures him that everything will be okay. As the medication begins to fade, they realize they're out of time. With no other options left, Millie steels herself and cuts through the fused flesh, separating them by force. Bleeding and barely able to stand, Millie decides they need to go to the hospital immediately. But just as they're about to leave, she realizes she left her keys at Jamie's house. Tim insists she go get them while he waits behind. The moment she leaves, Tim makes a decision of his own. He heads back to the cave, determined to finally understand what's happening to them. Millie arrives at Jamie's house and finds the front door open. She steps inside, searching for her keys, when she hears a television playing in the other room. On the screen is a wedding video. The ceremony looks disturbingly familiar. The same symbols and markings from the cave surround the couple. As the tape continues, the celebration turns into a ritual. The two grooms slice their arms and willingly fuse together into a single being. Jamie suddenly appears behind Millie. He reveals that he is the result of that very fusion. Calm and convinced, he tells her that they are happier now, finally whole. He urges Millie to complete the process with Tim. She tries to resist, but Jamie takes her hand and slices her arm the same way it was done in the video. Horrified, Millie fights back, slaps him, and desperately crawls out of the house. Meanwhile, inside the cave, Tim stumbles upon a nightmare. He's knocked to the ground by a grotesque, half-fused creature. It's Simon and Carrie, the missing couple. Simon is barely alive, a knife lodged in his neck, frozen mid-scream. Tim realizes the horrifying truth. Resisting the fusion left them trapped, broken, and incomplete. Grabbing the knife, Tim slashes the creature and runs from the cave, shaken and gasping for air. Injured and bleeding, Millie forces herself back home. In the driveway, she and Tim reunite, but they stop themselves from getting too close. Despite their efforts, the pull between them returns, dragging them toward each other. Tim tells Millie about what he saw in the cave, explaining that Simon and Carrie's fate was the result of fighting the fusion. He admits he doesn't want to end up like that. Tim drops to one knee and finally does what he couldn't before. He declares his love for Millie. She tells him she feels the same. In a moment of desperation, Tim pulls out a knife and offers to kill himself to stop the process. Millie stops him and reveals the deep wound on her arm. She's bleeding out and there's no time left. Millie collapses, telling Tim to run before losing consciousness. Tim desperately tries to wake her, but she doesn't respond. With no other choice, he carries her inside. When Millie finally wakes up, she realizes what Tim has done. He fused his arm to her wound, stopping the bleeding and saving her life. Tim puts on Millie's favorite album. Despite everything, they stand and share one final dance. Accepting the truth, they embrace their fate and reaffirm their love. As they hold each other close, their bodies slowly fuse together, becoming a single being. That weekend, Millie's parents arrive for their visit. They're greeted not by two people, but by one. Millie and Tim are now fully merged into an androgynous individual who introduces themselves as Tilly, appearing calm, complete, and strangely normal.